Welcome to the Real Health and Fitness Podcast with myself, Weston Spalding, owner, coach, and podcaster of Real Health and Fitness. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the characteristics that are essential in Real Health and Fitness, and that is the A in Real, Achieve. Just a quick reminder, REAL stands for read, eat, achieve, live. Read stands for reading something every day or just learning something new every day. The E stands for eat 3 meals a day, preferably one meal being with friends or family, distraction free. And we want those meals to be mostly whole foods as well. The A stands for achieve one thing a day, specifically some movement. So we want to achieve a workout, achieve 10,000 steps, achieve a 10-minute yoga, something that gets our body moving every day. And the L stands for live. We want to have the first three characteristics lead up to life we want to live, whether that's going to Italy when you're retired and being able to walk everywhere pain free. Maybe you have a performance goal of doing X amount of marathons by the time you're 50. Maybe it's just to play with your grandkids and get up and down off of the floor when playing with your current kid or future kids. It could be lots of ways that we define success, and live just means how do you want to live? What is your definition of a successful life? And today we're going to focus on the achieve part. All right, we're going to skip the first two. We're going to go right to the achieve because that's what everybody wants to do. We want to feel accomplished at the end of each day, feel like we are going in the right direction. And I'm going to talk about more of the process of setting a goal and then how we can get that long-term goal, break it down into the day-to-day, and how we can get those workouts into our schedule. Because that's what we're assuming here is there's some type of weight loss goal, performance goal, muscle gain goal, or maybe just improve a health marker goal, energy goal. All right. And we're going to get right into it. The four things I'm going to be talking about are setting the long-term goal. From there, we're going to backwards plan. All right. So one's going to be set long-term goal. Two is set a process goal. This process goal should fit your lifestyle. Three, set weekly goals. Four, how to daily habit stack or daily habit schedule. All right. So we're going long-term, and then we're going to think about, all right, what's a process goal for this long-term? Obviously, there's an outcome goal for the long-term. But if we can focus in on the process more, then the process won't be as, I'm just going to say it won't suck as much if you enjoy the process somewhat. Now, the whole time won't be exactly what we want. The process isn't always enjoyable, but eventually, as we mature, eventually, as we develop that discipline, we enjoy the things that are hard because we understand the outcome that we get from them. I'm going to go right into the long-term goal. So a lot of times I feel like we get goals from friends, social media, maybe self expectations that we've developed in our minds from family members, uh, just kind of what we see out in the world, society. A lot of times I talk to clients, they want to lose weight, gain muscle, but why? Why do you really want to lose the weight, gain that muscle, be top 10 in your age group for your sport or, win your rec league, whatever? And that, those goals might sound silly to you, but they could mean a lot to somebody else. And that's all that really matters is if your goal means a lot to you, I think you should definitely use that energy, use that dopamine hit to your advantage. So setting a long-term goal, I like to use the 5 whys exercise. So when I set a goal, I like to write it down, I like to journal that goal, and then just kind of write out why this is important to me and why I want to do it. When I do this, it would look like, let's say I want to gain 5 pounds of muscle. Why do I want to gain 5 pounds of muscle? Because I think I look cool in the mirror. And then maybe it's like, Why do you want to look cool in mirrors? Because I'd feel better about myself. I'd feel like I earned that muscle. And then, well, why is that important to you? And then maybe I would write something like, it's important to me because I understand how hard it is to build muscle, and just staying with that discipline and consistency over a long amount of time would make me feel better about myself. And then you'd write again, why is that important to you? And then I would probably write something like, uh, because if I'm consistent and disciplined, I believe that it doesn't only help myself, but helps those around me. And then I would write again, one last time, why is that important to you? And then I would write something like, it's important to me because I want to be a good example for my family and future kids and the kids I coach and the clients I coach, and for my long term health as well, because I understand that muscle is the key to longevity. And I want to be able to play with my kids and my grandkids into my 70s, 80s, 90s. Those are real answers that I would put personally. And yes, I'm going to be on a little journey of trying to put on 5 pounds of muscle. And that is very hard to do. I think it's harder than weight loss, in my own opinion. Maybe that's just my personal experience. Might be the opposite for you. You might have some genetics where putting on muscle is a lot easier than losing weight. We all have our strengths and we all have our challenges. So I'd highly recommend get out a piece of paper, write down a goal at the top of that piece of paper, and then write out 5 whys of why you would want to achieve that goal. Number 2 is set a process goal. So a lot of times we set an outcome goal. Now, excuse me, we need to set a goal of how to get there. We got to plan backwards. So go back to the 5 pounds of muscle. If I want to gain 5 pounds of muscle, then let's say I want to lift 3 times a week. That process goal is going to be the process goal of I want to hit X amount of times every month of getting to the gym. So let's say 4 weeks, 4 times 3 is 12. I want to get to the gym 12 times in a month. Right? That's my process goal. Right? And every month I want to be tracking how many times I got to the gym. Along with that process goal, when I'm at the gym, I'm going to be recording my weights, recording my reps and sets. Right? The process is to increase 5 to 10 pounds, maybe 20 if it's like a leg workout, like a back squat or deadlift or something. So 5 to 10, maybe 15 or 20 if I'm feeling aggressive. Pounds every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, I want to do that. Every 4th or 5th week, I want to take a little deload, let my body recover, reset, get right back at it. Now, this is not, I guess you could say it's an outcome goal, like a short outcome goal. The process of improving weight means that I need to be pushing myself. So it's kind of both there with the outcome of increasing weight. I like to look at it as I could stay comfortable and I could keep doing the same rep scheme and same amount of weight every time I go in, which I will do for 2 weeks, maybe even 3rd week if I'm just like not able to go up in weight, and then I'll be slowing down the tempo, doing things like that. But I need to make sure I'm holding myself accountable and increasing the weight or increasing the reps when needed, along with taking deload weeks. Deload weeks, I hate deload weeks. I do not want to do them. So that's a great goal for myself. Now you could apply this for weight loss too. Something that I would say for weight loss is if you want a process goal, it'd be to track your food at the end of the day, at least 5 days a week, and one of those days being a weekend day. So a lot of times I see people track their food Monday through Friday, and then they don't want to see what Saturday Sunday look like. They want to close the door, keep it in the closet. No, we need to sometimes have the hard truth, have the hard conversations with ourselves, and it's going to hurt. It's going to not be comfortable seeing the choices you're making. Just by tracking those choices, you will automatically start to improve them, more than likely. There was a study, not sure where I found it or saw it, but they did this for tracking your spending. You had to write down, they had these people, they had to write down every time they spent money with no coaching. And then they did the same thing for food. They had to write down their food choices every time they had a snack, drink water, drink anything, had a little piece of candy. They had to track it. Same thing with the spending. Every time they spent money just on like a cup of coffee, they had to write it down. They noticed without the coaching, people improved over time. And I think it was, I'll have to look it up for the next podcast, but I think they even did it with coaching. So they're tracking with coaching and tracking without coaching. I think tracking without coaching, people did better. So just by developing the self-awareness, you will improve those habits. Along with weight loss, I'm not even going to say the workout piece because I feel like it's kind of a given. Like you gotta be working out. You gotta be lifting weights, doing a little bit of cardio. 2-3 days of lifting weights for at least 30 minutes. If you get 60, that's even better. 2-3 days of some type form of cardio, whether it's long cardio or short hit workouts. Same thing. Could be 15, could be 60 minutes. Again, like 5-6 days there of working out. It's a given, but just getting 10,000 steps a day, or you can accumulate, kind of depends on your job, but 2-3 hours of just walking a day will help your metabolism tremendously. If we're sitting all day, our body is not going to think it needs to burn that many calories to keep our body going. When we're constantly moving, our body's like, all right, I got to get some blood flow to the legs down below the waist. When we just sit all day, all right, especially in our calves, blood starts to pool up. All right, but when we're walking, all right, the blood's going to pump down all the way to our feet. Calves going to help pump it back up to the heart. All right, and just by that blood pumping throughout our whole body and not just our upper body, that is going to help tremendously with not only burning more calories throughout the day, but pain as well. If we just sit and stay in one position throughout the whole day, even right now, I'm like, I'm slouching, stand up straight a little bit. All right. Even if we just sit throughout the day, our body needs to move. Our body needs that movement because movement is medicine. All right. So, a couple examples of the process goal. All right. We got the piece of paper. Going back to number one, set the long-term goal. You set that long-term goal, write down 5 whys of why that goal is important to you. And write down 1 to 3 process goals that you want to develop, let's put a time limit on this long-term goal. So you want to hit this goal in 3 months, 6 months, a year. All right. What are 1 to 3 process goals that you want to develop in those 3, 6, or 12 months? Now we're going to go to number 3, which is weekly goals. So this is just going to be pretty boring and pretty straightforward, but that is what's going to help you get results. Is just doing the same things over and over again and getting better and better in the quality of those same things. So setting weekly goals for gaining muscle, going to lift 3 times a week. I could even maybe add in there for a process goal for the long-term goal is hit my protein goal every day. So those would be some examples of weekly goals. Not really a whole lot to talk about there. I feel like with weekly goals, they can get boring as you go. So think about giving yourselves little rewards that aren't food. If you do 2 weeks in a row, if you do 4 weeks in a row, if you do 8 weeks in a row. So a weekly goal could be maybe you go out and buy, excuse me, maybe go out and buy a new workout top or workout shorts, or maybe you give yourself permission to go play 18 holes. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're like, all right, once I get 4 weeks in a row, I'm going to go play golf. Maybe it's go get your nails done if you're female. If maybe it's what's a good one? Maybe it's go see a movie at the movie theaters. It could be anything. It could be like an experience. Could be clothing instead of, going out and pigging out on some ice cream or something like that. It could also just be maybe you have a little tracker sheet and then, use like a different whatever color or sticker. Sounds like childish, but sometimes that helps. It helps like the dopamine hit in our brains. It helps us stay on track, helps us stay accountable. So think about weekly goals. They're probably going to be those process goals week to week. And think about how you're going to reward yourself if you're consistent week to week throughout this process. Now down to the day to day. So this is where Achieve comes in for real health and fitness. We need to achieve something every day, help that momentum get going. And with this, think about how we can stack those habits. So when I stack these habits, I want to go lift. All right. I need to maybe think of a habit, or I can think of all the habits that I need to develop just to get to the gym. I have a gym downstairs in my garage. So for me, it would be laying out my workout clothes the night before. So that way it doesn't feel so hard to get up, put on my clothes, put on my shoes, go downstairs and lift. This would be a great goal for everybody for the habit stacking. So you get that kind of add a daily habit here. Maybe the habit stacking is once you brush your teeth, so you wake up, go brush your teeth, you got your shoes right there in the bathroom, you put on your shoes to go work out. Could be if you're going to work out after work, all right, you have a little pre-workout drink if you like to drink pre-workout before you go work out. So you're at work, set a little timer 30 minutes before you're going to leave work, start drinking your pre-workout. Or I like to eat fruit, so I would eat like 2 orange cuties before I work out. That was a good pre-workout for me. Maybe it's like you just want to start drinking water before you work out, and you set a timer for 60 to 30 minutes before, depending on what you like, how you like your stomach to feel before you go work out. So that way your mind and body are already getting prepped to go do so. Maybe you got a workout buddy and you're going to maybe can't work out together all the time. So you text each other 30 minutes, 15 minutes before you're going to go work out, like about to hit the workout. Or maybe it's after, like you got to text each other after you hit the workout. With the calendar, so maybe you need to schedule in your calendar. I highly recommend this. If you have Google Calendar, whatever you use, block off that time and block off the time that it takes you to get to the gym. Sometimes we don't account for travel time, and that can mess things up, especially if your schedule is really tight. So figure out how long it takes to get to and from the gym, block off that time, and block off your workout time. With that being said, man, I forgot I was gonna go with this. Never mind. That's kind of it. Let's just figure out a way to make those workouts into the schedule. And I like a little bonus here is have a backup plan. So if life happens, life be lifing sometimes, and you're not able to get the full 60-minute, full 30-minute workout in, have a backup plan for a 15, 10-minute workout. Now, it might seem like this is pointless, but the main goal here is just to keep the consistency of working out every day or 3 times a week. All right. Maybe it's a different workout goal. Maybe you're trying to run more or do yoga 3 times a week. All right. Have a little compromise with yourself of, you know what, if I can't get a full run in, then I'm going to do some rowing intervals, some bike intervals, or I'm going to just go for a walk, get outside, or I'm just going to go for a 10-minute jog. If it's stretching, have like a 5-10 minute stretching routine that you'll do if you can't make it to yoga for that day. So still have that backup goal so we can keep the consistency of setting that time or just finding time to work out in our day. And with that being said, that kind of wraps up the goal setting process for Achieve. I want to achieve one thing every day, right? And it starts with setting a long-term goal. I really believe that we need goals. People get tired of setting goals, and they don't need to be super intense. Maybe it's in a year you want to be able to say that working out 3 times a week is like a habit and you don't really need to think about it anymore. Um, could be you want your pants to fit better in a year, or you just want to feel more confident in the mirror. It doesn't have to be a very aggressive goal when we set it. With no goal, there is no direction, right? And then with no plan, there is no way to get to that goal. So we need a vision, we need a goal to plan, and we need to plan for the goal to exist. Otherwise, it's just a dream. Without a plan, then it's just a dream. It's not a goal. So, to make your dreams realities, to live the life you want to live, you got to set goals for those dreams. And that's going to help you develop the lifestyle, develop the habits, develop the discipline and maturity that you need to be able to get to where you want to go. So, hopefully this helped. Hopefully this was useful in your goal setting. If you follow me on Instagram, Weston_Spalding, then hit me in the DMs. Be happy to talk you through your goal setting process. Love stuff like this. I'm always coaching myself on staying consistent and doing the boring stuff when it's boring and honing in on that. That is my biggest weakness. So, mic drop. So, if you struggle with that, I feel like we all struggle with that and would love to help you out if you need so. So, thanks again for listening to the Real Health and Fitness Podcast, and I'll see you next time. See ya.